Welcome back. It is Crew Call presented by Flow Racing, the home of NASCAR Roots, your digital home track. And man, they do a great job on there. And speaking of doing a great job, we are going to Colleague Racing up in Welcome, North Carolina. Joining us is the crew chief on the number 16 car, going to Indy with AJ Allmendinger this week. Matt Swiderski joins us. Hello, Matt. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on today.
It is great to talk with you. Obviously, we called you up. We want to talk to you a little bit about Indy, but I do want to talk a little about a season to date and how things are going with Colleague Racing. And, that's kind of my first question. How are things going? First full year crew chief, couple of different drivers up there. Kind of assess where you guys are at.
So we're kind of just past the midway point in the season, so it's kind of a good time to go back and kind of reassess where you're at. And it's weird to think back to the beginning of the season when we went to the West Coast. We didn't even have a shop. We were still in the back corner of RCR, barely, had enough people, enough parts, and barely putting it together. And now we're to the point that we're able to work a little bit ahead and start putting in place the processes that we want. So from that standpoint, really proud of how things are progressing. And from the performance standpoint, we know it's a first time team and cup racing is really difficult, but we have our ups and downs and are at least building a foundation to build upon.
You alluded to the challenges at the beginning of the year with parts and all that. Now that it's become kind of a rhythm, what's your race week look like as a race team trying to prepare yourself for the following week with what's the week look like?
So the nice thing now is, we actually have cars in the shop that are 2 weeks out ready to go. So, we have to kind of balance our work week between doing our road crew duties, final scale and everything on this week's Indy road course car. But the Michigan cars are out there and start their alignment process this week. And, we kind of ran into some issues recently where we weren't used to having as many options for the mechanics to work on out there. Everybody knew what car they should be on. So we had to work on the management side. So I know this is the focus right now. We need to get this one done. So good problems to have for sure.
You mentioned it, and Matt and the gang had us up there for your open house in May. Living in an apartment, living where you're in the process of moving is a nightmare. I can't imagine what that's like as a race team, that uncertainty. It has got to be a great luxury to have your own place now.
Yeah. And, it's the next gen car presented a lot of challenges too, where it wasn't a case of just going back and making stuff. You had an insane inventory of very specific parts all the way down to nuts, bolts, and fasteners. And we're scattered across buildings that we don't even own. And we spent more time just looking for parts to build the race cars and try to get organized. So now to have a place to build a home and let the mechanics kind of set up their work areas has definitely streamlined the process. It's a miracle we got to the racetrack and got all the cars together the way it was at the beginning of the season.
You talk about all the challenges of all the new pieces and parts, and you're working with three drivers that really are new to you. AJ, I guess, has got a little bit of history, but in going through that, talk about the challenges of that in preparing for three guys at different events, and all three of them really being kind of open notebooks to you.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody, the next gen kind of at least partially cleaned out everybody's notebook, but I think everybody was able to start creating a notebook a lot quicker at the beginning of the season with one consistent driver. Even though I had some past history with AJ from last year, it was really just road courses. So the first couple times we went to an oval with him, we really had nothing, had no, we tried to look at his Xfinity stuff and learn from that, but really had no idea what he needed. So when we kind of hit the swing where we had 4 races in a row with him kind of midsummer here, it was a blessing for us to really start to refine and work on what he needs in the race car. We had the West Coast swing with Daniel and probably had more success than we expected right off the bat with him, which was great. But, it definitely, I'll put some of that to luck and some of it to my race engineer. Worked with him last year, so had a really good notebook of what he wants. So it was, it's been good. And, we got more races coming up with Noah where we still have a lot to learn about what he needs in a race car.
And all three of your guys are Xfinity regulars. Talk about, is that time that they have on track before you get practice and qualifying, is that beneficial? Is it beneficial to have the race on Saturday? And what drawbacks are there to, because the cars are so different anymore, to having that guy that does double duty?
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons for sure. I usually post race have a call with them after they finish their Xfinity race, and I feel like we can at least learn kind of some of the trends of which way the balance went for them. We kind of can learn a little bit if they've put resin down, what they thought of that, if it was beneficial, or if there were any issues there, putting right sides in it or getting all the way up in it. So kind of those basic things have been useful to get that feedback, but compared to years past, it's obviously quite a bit different where air pressures don't quite line up, chassis adjustments don't quite line up, but track time still track time. Braking points change for the short track with the massive brakes and big tires we have on this car, but I think still getting in that rhythm. They've done well with that, and brought some benefit to their first laps in the Cup car, I think, from being on track already.
Matt, I shared, that I was up there on campus and saw your new building. And what I found fascinating, and this is just a radio guy, I'm pulling out of your parking lot and Austin Hill's Xfinity cars rolling down the road, down to the engine shop. And I'm sitting there talking to somebody and the big machine cars driving up the road. The interaction there at Richard Childress Racing, you got Richard's teams, you got Colleague Racing, you got Big Machine. How does that all work? And is it beneficial to have the real true multi-team campus like that to work with each other on?
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit of kind of like a college campus, and it's beneficial to have people with different backgrounds, different perspectives, especially when we're focusing on some of the same issues that we need to fix. I know all the Xfinity guys work really well together, and spend a lot of time trying to share their information. We get to work really closely with RCR. Unfortunately, Petty GMS is at a different location, so we have to work a little bit harder when we're working with them. But it's definitely a benefit having everybody on campus here. As long as it's not raining, it's pretty busy. Cars going back and forth between Chassis Dyno and up to the Hawkeye at RCR, and spend a lot of time shuffling cars around. But it works well till it rains.
Yeah, it was just neat. It just was really cool. Matt, I want to talk a little bit about your career, your journey. You came out of college. You have the bachelor's of mechanical engineering at Kettering, and then you have a master's from Purdue University. You came out, you spent a lot of time with Richard Childress Racing, took a year, went with SpaceX, came back to Richard Childress Racing, and then you spent a little time with Todd over there at Penske Racing. How beneficial was stepping away, particularly to go to Team Penske to kind of see things? How did that work in your career development as you ultimately moved back to RCR and then over to Colleague Racing? How did that couple years at Penske help you develop?
Well, I think first thing is just getting out and working with other crew chiefs is a huge benefit. I'd got to work with a couple of crew chiefs at RCR, but each crew chief I think brings their own strengths, and I've worked with some crew chiefs who are really good team builders and some who are, brilliant vehicle dynamicists. And it's just good to see everybody's different perspectives on how they approach a career that's not the most defined career. It's just kind of, whatever it takes to get the job done type of career. So that was a big benefit, getting out to work with Todd and Paul Wolf and Jeremy Bolins and Brian Wilson and all those guys, and see some new perspectives. Really learned a lot getting to work for Travis Geisler for a while. I seen how different competition directors handle it. I thought that was beneficial. But then one of the other things that was a little bit different for me on the crew chief side is when I worked at RCR, I spent so much time on the engineering side where, whether I was designing spindles or chassis, front clips, different geometries. When I then became a crew chief at RCR, I had a bit of a personal attachment to some of those designs that may have fogged my decision-making as a crew chief. So when I went to Penske and they said, here's your box of parts and you go racing, it was kind of refreshing in a way that I didn't have to try to defend or wonder if I was defending my own design. I just had to try and execute with the team that I was given. And, it was kind of refreshing for me to kind of reset there.
That's cool.
And I want to go back even to a deeper one. Tell us about SpaceX.
Yeah.
He's a rocket scientist.
Yeah. So I guess sometime in 2011, I kind of just one night, I guess, just sitting outside looking up, thought like, started thinking about space and thought it would be something cool to get into, and was just kind of stir crazy in racing. I'd been a race engineer for a little bit and just wanted a new challenge. So I applied for I started looking at job postings at SpaceX, and the one that they had was a data acquisition job. And I said, well, that's how I got into racing. Surely I can do that on a rocket. So I interviewed for that position, but they ultimately didn't want me for that role. They talked to me more about simulation. So they put me in their dynamic sim group. So I was in a group with people who went to school for aerospace, knew everything about rockets, and felt really out of place for a little bit. But they kind of used that to put me into roles that whenever they had something that wasn't typical, rocket science, engineering stuff, they'd give that project to me. So it was a lot of the landing simulation was stuff that I worked on. Some of the stuff, like one of the difficult things about the rockets, the hardest part is transporting them. So, rockets are designed to be pressurized and pointed upward. When you turn them on their side and don't pressurize them and then ride them down the highway from California to Cape Canaveral or Vandenberg, they take a lot of abuse and bending moments. So I did a lot of analysis of rockets driving down the road.
Wow, that's fascinating. You obviously have come back to NASCAR racing, and this is where you found a home. Do you still follow the space program significantly with that experience that you had there?
I still keep in touch with some people and still enjoy it. But while I was out there, I just missed racing too much. It was SpaceX was a fast-paced industry, but at the end of the day, we were, you were launching one rocket, and it wasn't the same as racing. Where maybe if we launched 36 to 40 rockets at the same time, and we saw who got to space first, maybe that would be more kind of feed into the competitive side, But the pace was a little bit different. Where like Todd knows and like you both know, in racing, on Saturday or Sunday how you did that week. It's pretty clear. Everybody makes it clear to you. So having that fast pace and quick feedback has been, something that I've missed while I was out at SpaceX.
That's cool.
Yeah, definitely. That's pretty cool. You talk about the gratifications of Saturdays or Sundays. Returning to a place that you first won with AJ last year. Got to be excited to get back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, for sure. It's weird to think back on that day. I mean, it was it's crazy how quickly it's gone and where it's a year away. But excited to get back. There's every time we go to the track with AJ, it's that practice is going to be a challenge. I don't think I've ever unloaded anywhere where he was happy with the car in practice, and he's emotional and passionate, but if you can survive the practice, you're going to have a good day. And there's no question he's giving it his all. So it's a lot of boxes to check on our end to make sure we give him everything he needs, but definitely looking forward to getting back.
Your tenure there at Colleague has been with AJ on road courses, but I'm sure in the past you've had other drivers on road courses in your Xfinity career. When you go to a road course with a world-class, I think you could probably make the claim that AJ is probably the best road racer in NASCAR racing. Again, it's situational, and other guys could step up and say, you've got that guy in the handful. Is there a difference though in all of the T's crossed, the I's dotted? Is there a difference in what you have to give a guy like that that's world-class?
I don't think it's as much a difference. It's just that he's so specific and descriptive of what he needs or what he's looking for. And that's what I found is just the difference maker with him. So you kind of have to get up to speed with his vocabulary on what he's trying to tell you. But as long as you're prepared to kind of work in those areas, it's just, he can maximize the braking and probably beat just about anybody in the corner if you give him the platform he needs. But if it's off the littlest bit, he's going to tell you, and it's a challenge because it's just hard to get right sometimes.
Yeah. It's the never-ending pursuit of perfection, right? I think is
Yes.
and he's passionate about it. I got an opportunity to work with him back in 2012. I've experienced the same things as Matt, and he's vocal, which is great. But he's focused and he's driven on what he's trying to make. Going back to Indianapolis this year, seems like there's been a couple of changes within the racetrack, and I would think you guys have seen that in the simulator, or at least information. Can you kind of explain what the evolution of the racetrack is up there?
Yes, the biggest thing that I'm sure will be a big point, a talking point, is just the curbing, the permanent curbing. So hopefully that cleans up the race and doesn't ruin what was an absolute great race for the fans, I think, last year. So I don't know that that'll change a whole lot from our end. Setup wise, we've run through all of our setups on the simulator and been able to work through that area. And the next gen car probably masked a lot of those changes, where if we were going back with another Gen 6 car, we might have changed our approach a little bit, but it's kind of a lean on previous road course races with this next gen car type of situation for us right now.
And of the 3 road courses we've run so far, what translates to Indy? What's closest?
So we're leaning back on a lot of our COTA notes. Part of that is because that was our best race by far. And we missed it a little bit, I'd say, at Sonoma and Road America. In the past, we've been able to take some of our Road America notes and apply them pretty well. But for our particular case this year, it's definitely more based on COTA. And we're lucky enough to have a little bit of simulator time down at the GM Tech Center, so we were able to work through some of those issues. But we approached it like any other road course, where we have the alliance with RCR. We can look at what the 8 did at Road America and try to apply some of what they learned to our COTA setup, and hopefully have something that's a step in the right direction.
Pretty nice to have that combination, that is for sure. Finally, Matt, I want to take it off the racetrack with you as we wrap up here. I always poke around, snoop around on social media, and I see a company by the name of Swiderski Properties. Am I right? You dabble in real estate on the side up there in the Winston-Salem area?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have a few apartments, industrial bakery, a furniture shop, skateboard shop, a bunch of little buildings that I rent out. So just I tried to look for a hobby that I wouldn't lose a bunch of money in, and hopefully maybe make some money at some point. So that's been going well, but keeping me busy in between racing.
An industrial bakery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a furniture shop.
And a furniture shop and a skateboard shop. Wow.
So he's got some rental properties that he can supply the furniture to out of a.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. All of us take on hobbies that cost us money. You found one that can break even or make money. That's spectacular.
Good for you. Neat stuff. Matt, we really appreciate the time joining us here as we roll into Indianapolis. We wish you the best this weekend and on throughout the season, but thanks for joining us here on Crew Call.
Perfect. Thanks for having me on.
There we go. Matt Swiderski joining us from up at Colleague Racing here on Crew Call. Stay with us. We'll be back with more. Welcome back. It is Crew Call presented by Flow Racing, the home of NASCAR roots. FlowRacing.com /go MRN. Matt Swiderski, what a fascinating guest.
Yeah.
We were just yucking it up during the commercial break.
Yeah.
Who knew that a bigger challenge for a rocket than going to space was going across country on the back of a pickup or a back of a truck? Yes.
Yeah. It makes sense when you really think about it, but I wouldn't have thought of it that way until he starts talking about it. I mean, it's what an interesting background. A great guy. I enjoyed my opportunity to work with him at Team Penske. He's a class act and really, really intelligent and diligent on how he works at things. I can understand why SpaceX would put him in the simulation department. He's pretty spot on when it comes to that.
One of our crew guys, production staff, Hank, said, "Yeah, that damn pothole in Louisiana." It's like you have a SpaceX rocket that can go to space, but a pothole in Louisiana can take the thing out.
Thousands of miles an hour, but it can't deal with 65 down the highway. But that's cool, and really the development and the growth of Colleague Racing.
Yeah,
that's really. He's been part of that. He was their Cup program last year out of RCR. He kind of came over to do the limited races. I wish we could have dumped him at Indy because we would have won. I'll finish
There you go.
second to him there, but it's just
Wish we would have dumped him in Indy.
and really, you talk about it, and for Team Penske going back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend, that's hallowed ground, right?
Sure.
That's Rogers.
Roger, yeah.
That was Rogers' like baseline, and then he bought the place. Like, it's hallowed ground. But for AJ, it's a pretty big deal too.
No doubt.
It's. I remember AJ leading the Indy 500 in Rogers' car. That's a story somebody should dig into at one point. He knocked the seatbelts off while he was leading the Indy 500 in
Oh my God.
Indy car. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, had to make a decision what he was going to do there. Fortunately, he came down pit road, put seatbelts back on. But
Oh my gosh.
yeah, that's a place that's pretty special to AJ as well. So to win there last year, I'm sure was pretty special, and he'll be on his game coming this week.
Yeah, he really truly will. Fascinating stuff. It really truly is with AJ and with them up there. One of the hot topics we've had this year is Trackhouse Racing, and obviously they have skewed everything as far as small team, new team goes. But when you look at Colleague Racing has had a really, really good season, and set aside this week's penalty, Front Row Motorsports. If we didn't have Trackhouse, we would just be raving about how good Colleague Racing and how good Front Row Motorsports are this year. Unfortunately, they're under the shadow of Trackhouse, but this platform, this race car, has really changed things dramatically for a few of these new or smaller teams. And Colleague is good and poised to potentially be really well.
Yes, yeah, they are. And Matt alluded to it. When this next gen car came out, everybody's notebooks went away. So history and advantages, it's all wiped out. Now we've all got a new notebook, and it leveled the playing field back to start the season, and we've seen some guys take advantage of that. And most of our smaller teams are more competitive. The racing's been great.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's across the board, and we've seen struggles. This car is hard enough to drive that you see struggles in every organization. Maybe minus the Trackhouse guys.
Right, again, that skewing the curve totally that team has, but everyone else, you're right.
But I mean, Hendrick at times has had.
Well,
I mean, Chase has been phenomenal lately, but they've had their challenges. The Gibbs guys have had their challenges.
Well,
Penske.
if we're going road course
you
racing
can go to
again,
any
we're
insert major team name here, they've had their challenges this year outside of Trackhouse. But we've also seen, that was now granted whatever happened, but was what, the 11th top 10 finish for Michael McDowell or something like that?
It's more than he's ever had in his career.
And I think somebody put out there was like he's had the 7th most top 10s this year of anybody.
Yeah, the running position, there's some stats out there that are just ridiculous how that team has performed. And again, set aside whatever happened this week with the penalties and everything, the car is performing well. And we're going to a road course track. Yeah. Where he'll get around there really well. Of course, maybe with or without crew chief, depending on what they do there.
I would anticipate an appeal for at least 1 week.
At least 1 week, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That's because you look at it, he's still 26 in points, so a win still puts him in the mix.
Still puts him in. So and you take McDowell and you want your A game, your crew chief there on the box at there. Another team I'm going to be watching. I'm going to really watch Chris Buescher and see what he does up at Indy this week. I'm excited about. I am. It's been interesting because we're like, Brad is going over there to run this team, and we're going to see what Brad's going to do. We're going to see what Brad's going to do. We're going to see what Brad's going to do. And Brad has been a little all over the map. This thing has probably benefited Chris Buescher as much, if not more, than anybody else. Look, he qualified 5th at Pocono. He's had really good runs. I'm anxious to see what that goes. This is elevated Chris Buescher pretty well over there as well.
Yeah, I felt that way. I used to fly with his race engineer to the racetracks, and he spoke immensely about Chris's talent and what they could do, and good to see this reset kind of put him in a good position. And I would, if you didn't say it, that was where I was going to go, was Chris Buescher. I wouldn't take my eyes off of Brad this weekend either.
No, he's Brad Keselowski.
He's Brad Keselowski. He's been decent at road courses at times. Their road course program's gotten better, and he elevates when it gets to be special races. Yeah. I've watched that at Team Penske. When we needed a win at Indianapolis, Brad went and got it. Like
he's that guy.
He's that guy that when the going gets tough and there's an opportunity out there, put me in coach.
Put me in coach.
Yeah,
he's the put me in coach guy, and we're getting to that stage with Brad.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to watch this last 5 races because I did pick him to win before the regular season was over, so I got 5 more chances to see that happen.
Yeah, and he's that guy. That is for sure. Wow, fascinating show. Great stuff. Really, really neat, fun stuff. Great conversation here across the board. Indianapolis has their own radio network, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network. So they have the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series race. Motor Racing Network, though, I am telling you, we have got some geeked up MRN guys. Alex Hayden and Chris Wilner. Chris will be on pit road. Alex will be in the booth. They grew up going to IRP, ORP, whatever it is running around getting autographs from their favorite USAC racers. Well, Motor Racing Network, including Alex, including Chris, and the whole crew will be at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. Friday night, 6 o'clock, the Reese's 200 ARCA Menard Series, and then at 8:30, it is the T-Sport 200 for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Can't wait to see those trucks and the ARCA cars back on IRP. That is going to be a great Friday night of racing.
Love that racetrack. It's I've raced a lot of Busch cars, nationwide cars back in those days, what they called them. What's the Xfinity Series now? But been there several times. Great little racetrack. Progressively banked. You run up against the top. You're not down on the bottom. It suckers you down there to try to make passes. It's good short track racing. Fortunately, got a chance to win the last Xfinity race there with Brad Keselowski in 2011.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Neat stuff.
Yeah,
it is cool.
So I love the racetrack, and the environment's just phenomenal. It'll be a great show.
It'll be a great show, that's for sure. So that's Friday night. You can find the entire schedule at mrn.com and even get reminders whenever we are on the air. You can do that as well. Hey, I want to ask you right now, do us a favor with Crew Call. If you're watching this, wherever you're watching it, wherever you're listening to it on, like and share. This is how podcasts are grown. Used to be we'd advertise. It used to be this, that, and the other thing. Like, share, review. If you like what you're getting on Crew Call, like, share, review, and spread the gospel here as we build this program together. And we ask you to join us in that effort. We really, truly appreciate it. And we do appreciate Matt Swiderski joining us. Great stuff.
Yeah, great stuff. Great guy, and good to get a glimpse behind the scenes of some of the guys that you know our fan base don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't know we had a rocket scientist in the group.
Got a rocket scientist in the group. They're worried about 55 on the highway, for sure. We appreciate Matt joining us. He's Todd Gordon. I'm Steve Post. More important, though, than all of that, thank you for joining us here on Crew Call, presented by Flow Racing, the ultimate digital home track for race fans everywhere. Whether it's dirt, asphalt, drag racing, or off-road, you can find it. More information at flowracing.com/GoMRN. We'll talk to you again, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Crew Call.